Hey friends of the fire, of song and story, dance, and earth, and love. I'm thinking about what it will be like to gather again around a real fire, and songs rise up, and stories settle in. And I look forward to that very much. I hope you are all well and finding your way breath by breath, sometimes 10 minutes at a time at this time. And here's a story that was shared with me many years ago by Sharon Blackie, a mythologist who is now based in Wales. I've also heard a version from Michael Meade. So this is my retelling. At the very edge of the world, there is a cave, and it opens out into everything and nothing. And in this cave, there's a fire. And on one side of the cave sits an old woman. In Scots Gaelic, the word for old woman is Cailleach. And this old Cailleach, she sits on a stool at a loom. She can never remember a time when she wasn't here in this cave. And she weaves. She pulls threads from a pile on the moist floor, and she weaves in and over and under and through. And as she weaves, she sings. She sings songs of sorrow and joy, of shadow and shine. And sometimes she cries, sometimes she cackles with laughter. She whispers and shouts stories from the very birth of time into this tapestry that she weaves. It's known that if she would ever stop and leave this loom and not return, that the world might come to an end. And that has not happened yet. And so she weaves, and she sings, and she tells. And in this cave, there are hard places of craggy rock, the old bones that hold such stories. There is the drip, drip, drip of the water of life trickling down the walls, through the ceiling, rising up from the very floor of the cave. There are soft places of moss. There's the graffiti sprawl of lichens. Now, she will weave for a timeless time until she smells something. Yes, on the fire there's always a great black pot. And inside, the elixir, the essence of every living thing and being a broad and generous designation. And the steam rises up, but she'll smell something burning. You might know this experience. And she leaps up from the stool and she grabs a great spurtle. Yes, a spurtle. Look it up. It's the size of an oar. And she stirs the pot, which she has forgotten about and is starting to burn. And she stirs with her old bones, the flesh hanging off, the map of wrinkles on her face, each line a story. And she stirs and she stirs and she prays to some God that lives in the bottom of her heart. But she hasn't spoiled the batch. Then, all this while, through the weaving and the stirring, on the other side of the cave, there are two beady, glassy eyes watching. Raven has been watching this whole time, waiting for this exact moment. A pinprick in time. As the old Cailleach stirs and stirs, Raven seizes the moment. And she lifts herself out of the crack that she hides in the side of the wall. And she unfurls her great black wings like a shawl. And she flies across the cave and perches on the loom. She eyes this beautiful tapestry. So many colors, carnelian and emerald and lapis and silver and gold and ochre. And with her mighty beak, she begins to tug and pull. And as the old woman stirs and stirs, Raven undoes all of the work that the old Cailleach has done. She pulls, she squeals in her delight at creating such sacred chaos. And what has taken epochs to create is undone in the blink of an eyelash. That is Raven. And Raven, having done her task, pulled the whole weaving, the whole world apart, sits back and she preens and fluffs. And she looks with great fulfillment and such a sense of accomplishment at the pile, the mighty pile of threads lying on the floor of the cave. And then she lifts up off the loom, her wings flapping, and she sails back across the cave to her perch, where she will sit and watch. Now the old woman, she has finished the task. She has saved the sacred brew from spoilage. And she sets down the spurtle and she wipes the sweat from her brow. And she probably farmer blows into the corner. And she makes her way, creaking and cracking, and yet graceful as a snake, back to the loom. Now her eyes are old. Their sight is not so much about seeing outward anymore. So it takes her a moment as she sits at the loom to recognize that the tapestry has been demolished. Absolutely wrecked. And she looks, and she looks. And even though the storyline has played out time after time after time, she always forgets. And she feels it as if it's the first and only time. And she looks at this great pile, this mess, and everything has become undone. And she slips off the stool and she weeps. She grieves and she grieves and she howls. And for the longest time, that is what happens. The salt of her tears settles in to the threads, into the moist cave floor. And after she has spent all of her tears, her sacred, essential tears, there is a calm. That sweet peace after a great storm has come. And in the aftermath, she wonders what will become, what will happen, how will she move forward. She feels her old heart beating. That rhythm. That rhythm. That rhythm. And she looks down at the pile of thread, wool, and old rags, silk, golden, and dyed the colors of the earth. And lost in that chaos, she forgets herself and her grief. She has grieved cleanly. And some thread catches her eyes, this strand of woolen lapis, and she pulls it up. And she begins to weave in and under and over and through. And she weaves and she begins again. That's it. That's it. So here's to our weaving, individually, collectively, reweaving. Thanks. Much love.